Good morning and welcome to the Fountain Studio celebration. There are so many ways we can connect with one another these days. Text, email, voicemail, Facebook Messenger, but sometimes we still don't hear about things happening in your life, and we always want permission before we share your joys and concerns. So if you let us know what's happening with you and your loved ones, it will help us offer one another the kind of support that the Fountains is known for. It's easy. Just send us a prayer request by leaving a voicemail message at the office or by emailing it to welcome@weputlovefirst.org. You can also go to the link below, tinyurl.com/fountainsconnection, and fill in the online form you'll find there. If you're not already receiving our weekly Joys and Concerns email and eStreams newsletter, you can sign up on our homepage or let the office know by email or phone. Thanks for staying connected, and thanks for being a part of the Fountains virtual family. From wherever and whenever you're joining us, we're glad you're here.
Join me as we get in the Spirit. We have come to celebrate the God of creation,
the God of justice,
the God of profound inspiration,
and source of all creativity and living.
May we be open to the power that lies dormant among us.
May we be full with the confidence in our own strength.
May we move out of the apathy of the status quo
into the fullness of a just and compassionate life.
Gather, here we come together, seeking wisdom, seeking truth. Minds are ready, hearts are open to receive what each can give. Drawing deep from wells of knowledge, sharing insights old and new. As we gather, as we come together, finding wisdom, finding truth. As we gather, as we come together, seeking comfort, seeking strength. Minds are ready, hearts are open to receive what each can give. Needs and fears expressed and honored, care extended, warm and free. As we gather, as we come together, finding comfort, finding strength. Wide world over, we will come together, seeking justice, seeking peace. Minds are ready, hearts are open to receive what each can give. Deep respect and deep compassion, lives committed to the cause. Wide world over, we will come together, bringing justice, bringing peace.
Let's affirm the Fountain's mission together. As followers of Jesus,
We put love first.
As we enter into this time of centering, I invite you to breathe deep through your nose and then slowly release it through your mouth a couple of times. As we settle into this moment, as we let go of the distractions that clutter our minds, may we join together in being inspired by these words adapted from South African John Vandelaar. If we're honest, compassion doesn't come easy to us. We see others who struggle, those without homes or food, those dying from curable diseases simply because they can't get access to the medicine they need, those who have lost loved ones through death or circumstance and long for human companionship, those who are persecuted and judged because of their difference, those who are facing the awful consequences of bad choices they've made, and those who've got to live with the consequences of choices that others make that impact their lives. It all just feels like it's too much sometimes, and there's nothing we can do. But we know that's not true. We know that compassion is enough. That when we allow ourselves to feel, compassion will lead us to do what we can, and that this will make a difference. And so, first we pray for ourselves, that our hearts would be softened, that our fears would be stilled, and that we might be led into those acts of compassion that we are capable of doing. And then we pray for all those others whose lives can be changed through small, simple acts of care, that we might be disturbed and others like us until we finally step up and play our part in the saving of our world, and that enough of us would answer the call that the needs of the hurting might be met. And now, inspired by these words and centered on the subtle pulse of our deepest selves, may we be attentive here and now to compassion rising within us and the movement of the Spirit.
Open our hearts, open our minds, open our lives to you, oh loving God. Open our hearts, open our minds, open our lives to you, oh loving God. Open our hearts.
Spirit of wisdom, beyond our understanding, we open our hearts, we open our minds to your leading. Turn us away from our tendency to accept the inertia of the status quo as wisdom.
Strengthen us to be servants of the high callings of justice, mercy, and humility. Make us a people flowing within the stream of your Spirit's grace.
May your vision for a community full of compassion and love, where we treat our brothers and sisters with dignity and honor, be our vision as well.
Bring us into the fullness of life by the Spirit that goes before us. This is our prayer.
We offer this time of quiet, bringing our whole selves in the name of the one who taught his first followers to pray the prayer we now sing together.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us as we forgive others, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom and the power and the glory are yours forever.
Hi, I would like to tell you a little bit about my experience with Syria Service Project. When I was in junior high, I had the opportunity to travel with our youth team to LA. I kept returning every year because I met so many great friends, and it really taught me to appreciate life for what it is and where I am on the moment. I even had the opportunity to serve on the board of SSP during my senior year in high school. Syria Service Project Work Team is an incredible opportunity for adults as well as teens. Despite your busy schedules, why not carve out just 1 week this summer to do something selfless and transformative while learning about a different culture? Join us in putting love first in the world. We're opening our July 9th through the 15th trip to adults in addition to youth who are incoming 6th graders and older. We will be serving in Sale, Arizona on the Navajo Nation along with other intergenerational teams. We will be returning to the beautifully rugged Navajo Nation to work out on Sale and have chosen the week of July 9th through the 15th. The registration fee is only $100 with other expenses over $500 each being covered by the church. For more details about SSP at Sale, Arizona, you can also go to sierraserviceproject.org. We hope you'll join us in being a part of SSP 2023. Thank you.
Every day, the Fountain strives to put love first, both in person and online.
And if you're one of our many regular online viewers, we're grateful for your participation as a digital member.
Every week you hear about all the many ways you can give electronically to support the online outreach, like using the QR code on the screen, going to give.weputlovefirst.org, or downloading the Vanco mobile app. Then, when you're on our secure giving site, be sure to look for the line that says Studio Celebration Donation.
A contribution here lets us know you're out there, that the studio is important to you, and that you want to be a part of supporting this growing digital outreach.
So, wherever you are and whenever you're watching, we're glad you're joining us.
Thanks in advance for supporting the studio financially.
You don't know me, but choosing to live with hearts full of gratitude. Give us the gift of choosing to live with hearts full of gratitude.
You know, Jesus never shied away from working against those primal human responses in his teachings, and today's passage from Luke is no exception. In this excerpt from what is essentially Luke's version of the Beatitudes, Jesus starts out with what you and I would recognize as the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But then he can't leave well enough alone. He muddies up a perfectly harmless platitude with a clarification. You know, he says, this includes your enemies. What? Hang on. That's a little more than I signed up for. I thought this would be like a harmless reciprocal arrangement. But if you're including my enemy, how will I ever get paid back? Those people are insufferable. But Jesus says, too bad. Do it anyway. And then adds, expecting nothing. Then Jesus urges his listeners to be like God, no less, being kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Jesus doesn't try to give any rationale for his divine eccentricity. God is God, and God will do what God will do. More than anything, Jesus calls his listeners to imitate God's penchant for doling out unmerited mercies and for being generously, irritatingly compassionate.
Our words of wisdom are from Luke chapter 6, verses 31 through 36, the Message version. Here is a simple rule of thumb for behavior. Ask yourself what you want people to do for you. Then grab the initiative and do it for them. If you only love the lovable, do you expect a pat on the back? Run-of-the-mill sinners do. If you only help those who help you, do you expect a medal? Garden variety sinners do that. If you only give what you hope to get out of it, do you think that's charity? The stingiest of pawnbrokers does that.
I tell you, love your enemies. Help and give without expecting a return. You'll never, I promise, regret it. Live out this God-created identity the way our Father lives toward us, generously and graciously, even when we're at our worst. Our Father is kind. You be kind.
Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Thanks be to God.
It wasn't unusual for a Mullah Nasruddin to be challenged to a debate. And on one occasion, a philosopher, having made an appointment to dispute with Nasruddin, arrived at the appointed hour and found Nasruddin away from home. Nasruddin had completely forgotten their plan and was in fact in a tea house playing table games and telling stories with his friends. After waiting for quite a while, the philosopher grew angry, and picking up a piece of chalk, he scrawled, "Stupid oaf!" on Nasruddin's door and left in a huff. As soon as Nasruddin got home and saw this, he rushed to the philosopher's house. I'm so sorry for not having been home. I completely forgot our appointment," he said. Of course, I remembered the appointment as soon as I saw that you'd left your name on my door." Who is it that stretches your capacity to love, to be compassionate? The poor? The immigrant? The cruel politician? The judgmental preacher? The sick, or the ugly, or the angry, or the forgetful? Whatever. Do you find yourself suffering from that oh so American of ailments, compassion fatigue? When we find ourselves growing impatient, tempted to scrawl something on the wall in frustration, will what we scrawl say more about our deepest insecurities than anything else? Could the teachings of Jesus we have the most trouble with be a glimpse into our own psyches? In today's passage, Jesus says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." But he knows that we will immediately try and make it easier for ourselves. So he immediately adds the fly in the ointment admonition. You know, this does mean loving your enemies too. Do good, lend to them, expecting nothing in return. Look, God is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked, so go and do likewise. Be merciful, be compassionate. He said what? Clearly, Jesus didn't have to live in today's world. He's being totally unrealistic and naive. I can't live like that. Good thing I just have to believe in Jesus and not actually do what he taught. I mean, that would be totally impractical and maybe even irresponsible. But is it? Remember, Jesus was not a teacher of either correct beliefs or right morals. In fact, he opposed the holiness code embraced by some of the most religious Jews of his day, who emphasized, "You shall be holy as I, the Lord your God, am holy." And remember, to be holy means separation from everything that would defile a person. And then we're just back to that dualistic thinking that religions thrive on. Clean versus unclean, Jew versus Gentile, righteous versus sinner, pure versus defiled, sacred versus secular. Instead, Jesus offers an alternative. Forget holiness, he says. Be merciful as God in heaven is merciful. The root of the word merciful, oiktero, is to have compassion. So instead of holiness, instead of separation, Jesus did just the opposite. He embraced all, the outcasts, the unrighteous, even the Gentiles. He invited people to transcend the conventional wisdom of his day. So he healed on the Sabbath. He dined with sinners and outcasts. He told stories that made women and Samaritans the heroes, and demonstrated a compassion in his relationships that transformed the people around him. This was the essence of Jesus' ministry, actions that embodied the true meaning of the word compassion, which in both Hebrew and Aramaic is the plural of the singular noun for womb. That's right. Jesus is suggesting that God is, and we should be, womb-like. The womb, nourishing, life-giving, and sustaining, a visceral, tangible expression of the very idea of compassion. Now let's be clear what compassion is not. It's not charity. It's not pity. Compassion is not the kind of patronizing generosity that is so often what we offer to those who are less fortunate. No, compassion is a deep and intimate engagement with the other. It's coming to the realization that God's grace is manifested in the most unlikely of places and circumstances. And Jesus told stories that forced his hearers to wrestle with his teaching until they realized that the only way they could resolve the tension they were feeling was to face their fears in busting down walls, crossing barriers, and overcoming the conventional wisdom that imprisons most of us even today. If you're writing a check to support a ministry somewhere, great. But until we personally cross that line that we haven't crossed before, pushing through the prejudices and discomforts that hold us back from really engaging with people who are totally different than us, then we will never truly know the transforming power of God's grace. Let me give you two examples. Judith Brain is a UCC pastor in Massachusetts, and her son is a jazz musician. Judith tells the story about her husband going with her to hear their son's band one night in a club in Roxbury. She writes, "It was a warm, interracial, friendly spot. At the table next to ours, a big, friendly African-American man attended to a tiny, twisted human being on a wheeled cart. A paralyzed man with a puppet's body and a large, misshapen head lay on the cart, sipping his beer through a straw and watching the musicians attentively. He seemed alert, but only his eyes moved, so it was hard to tell how much he really took in. His friend captured our attention. He seemed alive to every nuance of this poor, deformed man. He leaned close to hear him speak in that noisy club, and his manner proclaimed love. I thought about how wonderful this scene was, the club that embraced this broken person. I felt part of that embrace. I too was reaching out in some way with a friendly smile. I accept you, I was saying. Well, the room was smoky and my contact lenses were giving me trouble, so I popped them out, I sloshed them in my water glass, and I put them back in. In a few minutes, the tall man came over to our table and gave me a bottle of eye drops. "Here, you need this." "Oh, thanks," I gushed. "You noticed." "No, my friend did," he said, pointing to the man on the cart. On that crooked face was a big grin. He took pity on me. I came out of my pharisaical fog. I accept you? What presumption! I thought I was whole and he was not. I thought I was the giver and he was alien, the last person in the world who could help me. But the tables were turned. That twisted man in the jazz club became an unexpected source of kindness, of compassion. We need to get over ourselves and the idea that God will love us more if we are nice to those with special needs, or that we do good, or that we believe the right stuff. In our passage today, Jesus clearly says, expect nothing in return. Where grace really happens, where we experience an authentic glimpse of the divine, is in very humble and very human circumstances, in that spark between two human beings who are genuinely engaged with one another, in truly coming to know one another, in fostering trust, and where there's been misunderstanding, limping towards reconciliation. Matthew Fox reminds us that it's not about feeling sorry for people. Meister Eckhart says, compassion is just another word for justice. It's about creating circumstances of fairness and equality and balance so that rivers of wisdom and joy can flow through our hearts, through our communities. Sounds good, right? No, not if you're a conservative politician or evangelical Christian. And this is my second example, the one that I have the biggest challenge with. Love your enemies. There is a growing chorus of politicians and preachers across our country who seem to have a special talent for not only stoking fear, but for bringing out the worst in others. They thrive on chaos and division. Also, they can amass more power for themselves, and most of it in the name of their idea of holiness. And right now, their number one focus is a frenzied anti-woke campaign vilifying diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. What are diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI initiatives? They're exactly what we just heard Matthew Fox define as compassion. Efforts to create circumstances of fairness and equality and balance so that rivers of wisdom and joy can flow through our hearts and through our communities. Let's be clear. These blowhard politicians and preachers are dangerous, and they're working exactly against what Jesus is advocating for. They are opposed to including people of different races, genders, sexual orientations, abilities, or religions in their organizations or in the community. They are opposed to fairness and justice, could care less about whether people feel like they belong, feel heard, or feel valued. And not to put too fine a point on it, they are advocates of principles that align with historic white supremacy. They are the enemy of compassion that Jesus tells me I'm supposed to love. Our very own new Arizona Superintendent of Public Instruction was elected spouting blatantly racist promises to protect people from this fantasy boogie monster of critical race theory, counting on the fact that most of his voters don't even know what it is, so they could be manipulated into voting their fears. He is the enemy of compassion that Jesus tells me I'm supposed to love. What are we to do with that? Let me ask you this. In our workplaces, schools, and institutions, do you think Jesus would be against diversity, equity, and inclusivity, or for diversity, equity, and inclusivity? If you said against, let me introduce you to a little book that I like to call the Bible. Maybe you ought to consider reading it sometime. And yes, what I'm saying is that despite draping themselves in Christian flags, a good number of these misogynist, racist, anti-LGBTQ, book-banning politicians and preachers are, in fact, profoundly anti-Jesus. And yet these enemies of compassion are exactly the ones Jesus says I'm supposed to love. Back in 1966, Martin Luther King Jr. faced a mob of opponents while marching for fair housing in Chicago. As he led several hundred peaceful demonstrators through the Marquette Park neighborhood, they were met by a crowd of thousands of mostly white segregationists, frothing with hate and screaming racial epithets. MLK kept marching. Rocks and bottles were thrown, and one hit MLK in the head. He went down on one knee, wiped the blood away, got up, and kept marching. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a group of white teenagers jeering at him. King ducked away from his security detail, walked right up to them and said, "You're all so smart and good-looking. Why would you want to stoop so low?" King truly believed what Jesus taught, that we are all created in the image of God, and that love is the only force capable of changing an enemy into a friend. Jesus, why do you have to make this so hard? We have to love even those who are working against including the poor, the immigrant, the sick, and the scary? Even the misogynist, racist, anti-LGBTQ, book-banning, anti-Jesus culture warriors? Ah! Every day, as a follower of Jesus, I have to remind myself that I am called to go beyond being open even to those who seem unlovable, to being open especially to those who seem unlovable or who are actively working against my efforts to live into the kingdom. Why? As Muslim interfaith activist Ibu Patel says, when people are at their worst, our enemies and our friends, we all lose. When people are at their best, our enemies and our friends, we all win. So, with those who are excluded and those who are doing the excluding, with those who are hated and those who are doing the hating, with those who are experiencing injustice and those who are withholding justice. There is only one way to move forward, with the maddening and impossible ideal of compassion as our guide. My friend Paul Eppinger used to tell the story of being in Jerusalem and seeing two young women happily making their way arm in arm through the cobblestone streets of the old city, chatting and giggling as they went along. The only thing more remarkable than the fact that one was clearly Jewish and the other a Muslim was that one was blind and the other crippled. The young woman who was crippled could not walk without the assistance of her blind companion. The blind girl could not find her way without the eyes of her crippled companion. Despite all our differences, we need one another. Our collective future depends not only on our genuine compassion toward one another, but that we love our enemies, even when we don't like them very much. As MLK said, let no one pull you so low as to hate them. Compassion is Jesus' alternative to holiness. An obsession with holiness only leads to exclusion and hate. Instead, Jesus told us to do unto others as we would have them do unto us, and that we do so expecting nothing in return, save for the opportunity, like Jesus, to be kind. Yes, even the ungrateful, the wicked, and the enemies of kindness. Be compassionate, Jesus says, just as our Creator is compassionate. Wake up, church! This is not a task for the faint of heart, but it is undeniably, irrevocably our task, here and now. May compassion be our guide and our goal. Be well.
Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. We are the salt of the earth, called to let the people see the love of God in you and me. We are the light of the world, not to be hidden but be seen. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. We are the hands of Christ, reaching out to those in need. The face of God for all to see. We are the spirit of hope. We are the voice of peace. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. So let your love shine on, let it shine for all to see. Go make a difference in the world, and the Spirit of Christ will be with us as we go. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference.
us offer these words of challenge and blessings to one another as we go. Let us embrace the gift of every moment
with expectation and patience,
with hope and wisdom,
with compassion and involvement,
with openness and love,
and with the courage to face the reality and complexity of life.
May the creative and the empowering spirit of life be with us.
Amen.